we've got a lot of partners in this industry that, get up and work hard every day, believing that hard work's going to translate into some kind of value in the end. And what they find is that people don't pay for hard work. They pay for companies that generate profit. And, that's a real problem in our space because people aren't really planning ahead and doing the things they need to do to create value.
My next guest needs no introduction. If you are involved in any way in the IT services space, chances are you have met him personally, heard him speak at a conference, or heard of him from your peers. Arlin Sorensen at IT Nation is a force unto himself. In his role as VP of Ecosystem Evangelism at IT Nation ConnectWise, he is dedicating his career to helping MSP owners transition successfully. Listen to what Arlin has to say on his podcast around the common challenges MSP founders face around exit and retirement, and how he and IT Nation are helping them with legacy, life, leadership, and financial planning. But first, before we go any further, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. My name is Madhur Duggar. I work in the IT and software M&A space, and this is my podcast series, M&A Insights. If you are interested in having a conversation around the strategic direction of your firm, are looking to grow your book and want some marketing and business development help, or are an investor looking to make an acquisition in the space, write to me at podcastwithmadhur, that's MADHUR, @gmail.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Arlin, welcome to my show. I am so excited to have you over here to talk about all things MSP and smaller big picture items associated with it. But let's just start with your journey. Can you share your journey in the IT industry and how it led you to IT Nation?
Absolutely. I graduated high school, went to Iowa State, and took farm operations. And my plan for my career was to come back home to the farm with my dad and brother, and that's what I did back in 1977. Started down that path. And in 1982, I bought an Apple II Plus computer. And, at the time, the sales guy told me it was all the computer I would ever need, which didn't turn out to quite be the case. It was a 64K dual floppy machine. But it did get me started in the technology business. I fell in love with that machine. And, I started a hobby business a few years later, helping other farmers get a computer and start to do their accounting. And over time, we continued to grow a little bit. And in 1990, I launched a real company and hired my first employee. That was really the transition point, I guess, of now I'm really in this, and I've got to make sure that we're doing the right things and can build a business. And so did that for a number of years until I sold it to a telco in 2012 after 27 years of running a VAR MSP company. And so it was a great ride. I married ag and technology together, and I created an ag tech company as well during that process. And so that's how I got involved in the technology business. It just kind of swooped me off my feet, and I fell in love with it.
And you sold the business in 2020, is in 2012, you said?
Yes.
2012. And then what did you do after that?
So along the journey, I had started the peer group organization called HTG, and started that in 2000. And so that was what I went full-time into after selling the IT company, and did that, sold that to ConnectWise back in 2018. We were at a point where I either had to put a bunch of money into the company to scale it, or, I wanted to find a partner, and ConnectWise had been an active partner of ours as we grew the program. So it was a logical place for us to call home. And so that's what I've been doing since that point in time. I've been working at ConnectWise as a VP of Ecosystem Evangelism, helping partners succeed. That's really my day job. How can I help partners, learn and succeed and hit their desired outcomes?
When you first came up with the idea of doing the MSP peer groups back when you did it, I mean, were other people doing it, or you're one of the first people to come up with this thing and realize this was such a need?
No, I actually was in a peer group in the late 90s.
Okay.
And, the reason that I decided to start HTG was, and we started it in 2000, the original peer group I was part of was completely focused on financials. And, it was very much business oriented. And I wanted to have something that was a little more holistic. So I started HTG with a focus on four areas, first being legacy. That to me is the foundation that we wanted to make sure everybody had thought through. And so the legacy planning was part of it. And then we wanted to have a life plan. So what are you going to do with your time? Leadership planning, because that was one of the big problems that I saw in a lot of other partners, is that they didn't have effective leadership. And of course, the business plan. So we have a framework with 4 plans, and that's how we have operated the peer groups ever since.
And it's incredible how relevant those issues are today, just as much as they were back then, right? Those challenges continue to remain challenges.
Well, and even more so because so many people are getting to the age where they need to transition out of their business. And so planning is critical for that to be successful and to really accomplish your goals.
What specific challenges does IT Nation help MSPs address, and has that evolved in recent years, or do you think it will evolve going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it continues to evolve as technology continues to change, and we get more and more tools like now artificial intelligence and robotic process automation and those kind of things. But the core challenges really are the same. How do you become operationally mature and really learn how to run a business effectively? What I've seen over the years, and I was a perfect example. A lot of IT company founders and owners were technically based. They could fix anything. They didn't really care that much about running a business. But if you're going to have a successful outcome, you got to care about running the business. And so, operational maturity is a big focus. One of the challenges I find is that a lot of people almost feel guilty making money. And profitability is also something that we really try to focus on. It shouldn't be what's left over, if there's anything left over, because in a lot of cases there isn't. It should be something you plan for and make sure that you take that as part of what you're trying to accomplish, so that you've got something down the road to sell or transition when that time comes.
It's interesting you said that a lot of people feel guilty about even making a profit, or think of it as what's left behind. It's almost as if the people who are there are really there in the helping business. They got in there because they wanted to help other people, right? And so that mindset hasn't changed. Meanwhile, they're left with running a business, and it requires you to have debits and credits and profits and losses. And there's a conflict in there between the good Samaritan in them and the businessman that needs to keep the reins in their hands.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. They just want to help people with their technology use and challenges, and if it doesn't really create any profit at the end of the day, well, we still help somebody. But that one of the saddest calls I get is from somebody that's wanting to transition and potentially retire, and they say, I can't find anybody that will pay me what I need so that I can actually step away from the business, because they haven't had a focus on driving EBITDA and generating profit to the bottom line. So it's an important transition that people need to make. And so we talk a lot about that through the peer groups. And, we ask people to create a budget and set goals and make sure that they're doing the right things so that they're creating value in their companies.
You talked about peer groups. I want to go to this question next. How does IT Nation foster collaboration and community alongside service providers?
Yeah, so we have the peer group program, and today we've got almost 1,000 different individuals involved in our program, and there's a detailed framework there that we use to help people become operationally mature and profitable. But we also have a set of events that we use to help people grow and learn. We have our
Mm-hmm.
flagship event, which is IT Nation Connect, that happens every November.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 5,000 or more people show up there with lots of content. And we have our security event. We've got a new one we just started that I'm deeply involved in called IT Nation Grow,
Mm-hmm.
which is all about business transition. So we're taking a really narrow focus on what should you be doing today to prepare for the future, because far too many people wait until they're worn out and tired. That's one of the common reasons I find that people want to transition is they're just tired of the business and they want out, but they haven't prepared for that transition, so they're stuck. And we've got a lot of partners in this industry that get up and work hard every day, believing that hard work's going to translate into some kind of value in the end. And what they find is that people don't pay for hard work; they pay for companies that generate profit. And that's a real problem in our space because people aren't really planning ahead and doing the things they need to do to create value.
You just said something which is insightful, not just in this space, Arlin. This is just insightful, period. I learned it the hard way, which is, people pay for what matters for them. So you have to work smart, more important almost than work hard. You do have to work hard, but
Right.
that's not enough. You have to work smart as well.
Right.
So that's very, very good. Very good point. I really appreciate your sharing that with us. And then IT Nation Connect, IT Nation Evolve, IT Nation Grow. These all have different flavors and emphasis, right? You said the grow is about people, a company that need to transition over from one stage to the next. That's about operational maturity and developing that. Can you help our listeners understand a little bit more about how these three, and maybe there are others in the sequence, maybe there's an IT Nation Secure as well. How are they different from each other?
Yeah, I mean we've got a whole series of events that we execute every year, and each one has got a specific focus that they're really trying to accomplish. So, Connect is kind of our industry-wide event. It's the big event, and people come there to interact with IT solution partners, to attend the content. It's really about community. Bringing together people into a space where they can really learn together. Secure is our security focused event that happens in June every year, and it's a very, very focused event. Grow is all about business transition. We've got Automation Nation, which is all about learning how to automate and use RPA as a tool and AI as a tool. So we've got these very kind of focused events that happen throughout the year. And then we have the Evolve peer groups, which run all year, kind of alongside those things. And that's really where we get into the, deep interactions with partners. The key to peer groups really is all of us like to be our own boss. And, most of us in small business are our own boss. And that's a great way to live, right? The problem with that is we do what we want to do, not necessarily what we need to do.
Goodness, 100%.
And the accountability that a peer group can provide when they know what you're trying to accomplish is so, so important. And that's what happens in the peer groups. Every quarter you have to set some goals. You come back the next quarter and you have to defend how you did on those goals. And we use the survivor model. So people don't want to be sitting in a room with somebody that just creates goals and never does anything about them. So they'll vote you off the island if you're not, executing. And so it's really important that people understand that, a peer group can be that kind of motivational driver that can help you accomplish more than you're going to do on your own.
Oh, it's a great point. So it gives you insights in terms of how you can help your business grow, whatever it is that you want to do, and it keeps you honest, right? In terms of making good with the targets that you have to hold on to. You talked about the fact that many MSP owners are at heart technicians; they can fix anything, but that leading a company is a different skill set. I know that leadership is a core focus at IT Nation. What advice would you give MSP leaders looking to grow their business?
Well, leadership leadership's key if you want to scale your company, and it starts with the owner, right? A lot of owners think that just because they're the boss, they don't really have to build their own skill set. And the reality is you do. You need to invest in yourself so that you're constantly growing your leadership skill set, but you also have to invest in your team. And the two things that I always look for when somebody says, "Yeah, I'm building my leadership team." Number one, do you have a budget? Show me your
Right.
line item budget for leadership development. And very few actually are willing to invest dollars into helping people become better leaders. And then the second one is, what are you willing to do as the leader of your company to invest in those you're trying to bring up as leaders? It takes time to build leadership. And so, if people can show me that they've got a budget for it and they're every week investing time into the people that they're trying to grow, then I'll buy off that they've got leadership as a focus. But most companies don't. They want to buy a book and have somebody read it, and that's their leadership development, or listen to this podcast on leadership, and that's supposed to take care of it. It's a lot more than that. And, companies that are going to scale have got to build leaders, and they need to build them before they need them. Too often people get promoted into a leadership role without being prepared. We just set people up for failure rather than success. And so, leadership's really a critical thing, and that's what stops a lot of companies from being able to grow.
Big theme nowadays. Many MSPs are considering acquisitions or even selling their businesses. So, interest on both sides. When you think about this decision of should I buy another business, should I sell my business now, are there key things that you think they should keep in mind when they make this decision?
Absolutely. The first one is to understand your why. Why are you thinking about acquiring somebody, or why are you thinking about selling? That really is a very important part of really having success on either side of the table. Having a plan, then once you know why, you got to put a plan together. The easy part of an acquisition is getting the deal done. Everybody thinks that's going to be the hard part. Well, that's actually the easy part. The hard part is, what are you going to do once you have that acquisition in place, and you've got to integrate and bring people into your company, and that stresses your leadership, and in a lot of cases you don't have enough leadership to do that, and so there's got to be a very strong plan in place. And what I find is that people wait way too long to even start thinking about it. There's a lot of tools you can use when you sell your company, for example, that require a 5-year waiting period before they actually take place. And so if you wait until you want to do it next year, you've already taken some of your options off the table. So in IT Nation Grow, we preach constantly, you got to think ahead. Think 5 years minimum out, so you've got all the options available to you. But create a plan. Create a series of things that have to happen. You've got to get educated. Especially in today's market where private equity is a main player. You need to understand how all this stuff works, and set yourself up so that you can have great conversations and really be ready for the success you want to have.
Yeah. One of the most important decisions you'll ever make, and yet not many people go about it in a proper organized fashion. They sort of like suddenly come to it, and that's just not the right way to get there, I think.
For most, this is the biggest transaction they'll ever have, right?
100%.
So they should put that kind of effort into it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everybody or almost everybody I know who's ever sold their house or bought a house, and that's just a house, has, hired a real estate broker or an advisor, But there are many people I speak with in this space who are setting their company who say, well, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm like, well, this is much more complicated than selling a house. So think about that very carefully. Cybersecurity threats, big pressing issue. A lot of development, I think, happening in this space amongst the businesses as well as in government. How is IT Nation helping MSPs prepare for and respond to this challenge?
Well, I mean, certainly the IT Nation Secure event that we have is totally focused on this, because you're right. It's the biggest risk that most MSPs and IT companies face today, is that you can go from having created a lot of value to not having so much tomorrow just through an event that happens. So, education is a big part of it. We have a rich ecosystem at ConnectWise of security vendors that all plug together, and so we try to make sure that we're delivering the opportunities and the products that can help partners be successful. But it's just another area that you've got to be really focused on, and peer groups are a great way to help enhance that. Right? Mm-hmm. What's working, what's not working, what experiences have you had? And I can tell you that within the peer groups, we've had some situations where there was an incident. And the beauty of being part of a community like that is people respond and help one another work through those challenges. So, a lot of times if you have an incident, it can be overwhelming for your team. There's far too many customers to take care of than people you've got available. So when that happens in a peer group, there's kind of a swarming effect. People gather around and they offer up help for one another, and they help each other get back on their feet. And so, the IT Nation is really trying to bring all those pieces together and help people understand that they don't have to fight the battle alone. This really is a war, and it's going to get more difficult before it gets easier because of AI and what AI can do. But, if you're part of a community, you can leverage that to help you if and when something happens that you need real assistance.
Yeah. So great advice available from your peer groups. IT Nation Secure as a conference itself. I mean, in general, it's a big space. Lots of different big pieces that are moving, regulatory uncertainty, technological developments in the cybersecurity space. But a critical one also is talent, and the need to find people who are skilled enough to do this, and the ability to attract those people to your organization rather than some other organization. For me, many of the smaller MSPs really run up against this challenge, in terms of finding the right people. Do you think this is going to continue to persist to be a problem for the smaller, medium-sized MSPs? Or what solutions do you think will markets come up with eventually to help them deal with this?
Well, I think it'll always be a challenge. Quality people are really a challenge. The change in the workplace has kind of opened the door a little bit to expand kind of the hiring pool, right? There's challenges with remote work, certainly,
Sure.
but it also has opportunities, in especially around security, where most of that happens across the wire anyway. So it's not like a sales position where you need to go, physically be there to necessarily deliver something. Security is really all about getting things connected and protected, and can be done kind of from anywhere. So that's opened up kind of the pool in terms of being able to acquire talent. But I think it'll always be a challenge, and the price of that talent continues to creep up, and so that makes it more challenging for smaller partners, especially. But people are available out there, and you just got to get good. That's one of the things that happens in the peer groups. People share their job descriptions and the postings that they're making, and you can get some great ideas just by talking to the people around you, and leverage the tools that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, working with fractional CISOs or help desks that offer that service, that's one solution. If you want to continue to run your organization the way you are, you can become part of a larger organization which has these tools and resources, and you rolled over your equity into that larger organization, so you benefit from that additional availability. So there are many ways to deal with it, but I think you're right that talent in this particular area is going to be a nut that people are going to have to crack. I want to really get to talk about post-exit challenges, transitioning to retirement, if you will. What are some of the common challenges MSP owners face that you've seen when transitioning to retirement? after they've sold their businesses?
Well, probably the biggest challenge that I see is that, as founders and owners run their business, they get completely intertwined in terms of their purpose and identity with that business. And when they move and transition away from that business, they're somewhat lost out there. The common thing that they tell me is, I'm going to do these three things. I'm going to watch Netflix and catch up on all the things I haven't had time to see. I'm going to play golf or pickleball or some kind of activity, and I'm going to travel. And, almost everybody has some version of that they tell me they're going to do. And about 30 to 60 days later, it's like, okay, I've done that, and I don't know what to do next. It's a real challenge if you haven't, again, prepared and planned for that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so we actually have a couple of peer groups we call S to S, Success to Significance.
Okay.
It's completely designed for people that have transitioned out of their business and, are looking for what's going to be next. What's the next chapter going to be? You don't want to retire from your business. You want to retire to something that you're going to be excited about. And what we find often is that these people want to give back, right? They feel that they've been blessed by the industry and have had good success. So they're looking for a way to help people. And we have a lot of them that come back and want to facilitate peer groups. Mm-hmm. That's a great place that you can, help other folks that are a little bit behind you on the journey and share your wisdom and experience. And so we've got a bench of about 50 facilitators that help us with the Evolve peer groups. And that's one great way to do it. There's a lot of places that you can give back and make an impact. But again, you need to think about that before you're sitting at home and you wake up in the morning and you don't have any emails and you don't have anything on your calendar. And it's like, now what am I going to do? Yeah. And I can tell you the answer is not to begin to micromanage your house. A lot of guys, they come home and they don't know what to do, but they can help fix things that have run perfectly fine without them for the last 30 years. That is not a formula for success.
Yeah. Very, very good point. There are so many takeaways, including you need to think about what you're going to do if you haven't thought about this. And it can't just be golf, because that's not a solution for the rest of your life.
Nope.
It needs to be something very substantive. Okay. Loss of identity. This is, I think, something you just touched on, actually. Many entrepreneurs struggle with the loss of identity, right, after exiting their business. And I think, how MSP owners can prepare for this shift mentally and emotionally is part of what you were just talking about. But away from MSP peer groups, what have you seen people, have they gone on to second careers, Arlin, for the ones that have sold out of their businesses?
So certainly a lot of them do find a second career. There's a lot of folks that are doing coaching or EOS or other strategic planning kind of systems. Mm-hmm. Some will actually go out and buy another business and start. I know one partner that exited the business and he got into small manufacturing. They just can't kind of sit back and not be doing something they feel is productive. But there's lots of options out there. Mm-hmm. It's just best to think about those things before you're really in that seat where you're not sure who you are anymore. And be prepared for it. And that's one of the things that we've really learned is that for most business owners, they chase time, talent, and treasure their entire career. And they get to a transition and all of a sudden they have all three of those things.
Right.
And they don't know what to do with them.
Right.
And so, the best transition is recognizing that, hey, if you start 5 years ahead, like we would suggest, you got plenty of time to create some hobbies, to explore some potential next chapters, to do the homework you should ahead of time. So when that day comes, you're not left there thinking, who am I and why should I get up today? So planning and preparation is really, really the key.
Yeah. I I know of one person who exited into a PE-backed platform, and what they chose to do was to go work for a different department inside the organization that was developing some software. So it was a different kind of experience for them. I know another guy who actually does consulting work for other MSPs that are looking to get operationally mature and then exit themselves. And since he's sold, he's providing consulting experience. So there are lots. You have tremendous experience through these 25 years, right? But like to your point, think about it ahead of time and position yourself for it so that you can do it in a successful way. Okay. Do you feel there have been stories where people have sold their businesses, have gotten their cash, and then sort of squandered it all because they haven't managed for it, financially planned for it properly? Because there's, I'm sure, an element of financial planning that's involved in this as well.
Absolutely. Pretty much everybody that has a successful outcome tells me that it's way more work to have money than not have money. When you don't have it, you know what you're going to do. You're going to be out there trying to make it. When you have it, you're worried about losing it. And, and it's amazing how many friends show up all of a sudden when they know you've had a successful outcome, or people that need or want help. So it's another one you want to be prepared for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do your financial planning before you've got a bunch of money in your bank account and you're not sure what you're going to do with it. The big thing about transition really is finding ways to take the emotion out of what's going on around you. And that happens when you're prepared and plan ahead. And so financially, find a good financial advisor you can work with that can help, prepare you and set you up for success. But yeah, if you're not intentional about it, it's like time. We piddle it away if we don't have a plan for how we're going to use it, right? And same thing happens with our money.
Yeah. I want to come back to the future for IT Nation. Are there new initiatives? I know you have a bunch of different verticals in terms of conferences and MSP peer groups. Are there any other new initiatives that we should be aware of that you would like to talk about, that IT Nation is planning for in the coming years?
Well, we continue to expand the peer groups. So we started out serving owners, founders, CEOs. Today, we're branching into the roles that people have in these companies as they mature.
Yeah.
So we have C-level focus around CFO, CRO, VPs or sales leaders, service leaders, chief people officers. We're expanding to try to cover that next level of leaders that are needed in the company. So that's been a big initiative. We're continuing to look for ways that we can deliver value through our events and conferences, and we'll spin those up as the opportunities arise. But the key to IT Nation really is about creating that community, that connected set of people that are there to help one another. And so, we have meetups and we have user groups and different things that happen all over the country, around the globe, actually. And so we have an IT Nation Connect event coming up in London in March, and one in APAC in the fall, ahead of our big event here in North America in November. So we're continuing to just create, more and more places for partners to come together and connect and help one another.
That's very interesting. I knew about the London event. I did not know about the APAC event. So you are available. You have a presence in international markets. Is that something that you feel is going to continue to grow going forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. The world's getting smaller every day. And we started delivering peer groups there, 15 years ago or so, but it's really started to grow in the last, few years. And the needs are, whether you're a partner in Australia or in the US, the challenges are the same. We might hit them at different speeds based on kind of where people are at in their maturity cycle, but we're going to all face those same kind of issues. The challenges are the same, and our customers face those same challenges as well. So, I think that's one of the big opportunities, is trying to help people focus on customer outcomes. No longer is it enough to just make the stuff work.
Yeah.
People want to get a return on that investment and have an outcome. And so I think we're going to see, the need for MSPs to really up their game in terms of the way that they provide CIO services and other things to help their customers be successful.
Yeah. At a personal level, Arlin, what have been a few of the most significant leadership lessons that you've learned in your career?
Well, I would say the biggest lesson I've learned is that it's really not about me. It's not about the CEO or leader in the company. It's about the people that they surround themselves with. I mean, the things that I'm most proud of are the people that I assembled in the different businesses that I've operated. That's where success comes from. It's one thing to have an idea and start an organization. It's a whole nother thing to assemble a team of people that can really deliver and take care of customers. And so, that's important. When I think about leadership, I think about it as an upside down triangle. And I'm at the bottom of the triangle. And my job is to lift and elevate the people around me and, to create an environment that enables them and gives them the authority they need and the education and training that they need and just help them be successful. And so that's my mindset about leadership. It's not top down, it's bottom up.
That's a wonderful way to think about it. The reverse triangle. Some of the best managers that I've ever had a pleasure to work with have been just that, just great nurturers of people and leaders of people. So I think that makes a lot of sense for you to say that. What do you hope will your legacy will be, in IT services, the IT services community?
Well, I hope people will look at the work that we've done as enabling them to find success. Everybody's going to transition. I think one of the things that we have to come to grips with ourselves is that there is going to be a transition that happens. It's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. And so, my legacy, I hope, is that, beat the drum there, that you got to prepare for it. If you want to have a successful transition, whether you're going to sell your organization or your family's going to take it over or it's going to go into an ESOP or whatever, there's lots of options for transition. All of them work better if you're planned and prepared. And so that's what I'm trying to beat the drum about is do your plans, start with legacy, know what you're trying to accomplish, and then use your time and money to move you toward that. And, that's the fun part of where we're at right now in the industry. A lot of gray hair folks that are transitioning out. And I love to get the call, hey, we listened to what you told us as we were in the peer groups and attending events, and we worked hard to prepare, and we had a great outcome. I mean, that's the legacy I want to leave.
Yep. And if I might say so, I think people have been very, very appreciative of the work that you and IT Nation have been doing with them. So I think that whatever you're doing has worked really well. I always close with a question that I ask all my guests. What is an unforeseen risk or a risk we aren't thinking enough about and we really should be?
I think for a lot of us in this space, we don't think near enough about our mental health and our physical health, our health in general.
100%.
Our well-being, as people. We're all about working hard and taking care of customers, and we don't necessarily take care of ourselves. I know I spend far too many hours in a car eating lunch, on the run or sitting at my desk and trying to solve a problem rather than taking some time for myself. I really think that that's a big factor that we all have to come to deal with. And so that would be certainly one of the things that I think we could spend a little more time on and be a lot more focused about.
Oh my goodness. That's gold. Really appreciate you sharing that with us. I didn't think about that one at all. People have talked about technology and technology related issues, but you hit on something which is much bigger. Arlin, thank you so much for taking the time to be on my podcast. I will always appreciate that.
Well, I really appreciated the conversation and hope that it brings value to your listeners.
Thank you so much.